Whoa, cutie patooties. We're gonna do something pretty fun tonight. I am about to expose myself. I have made a living on YouTube sharing my interior design style and decor, and a lot of people have found a home on my channel because they like my interior design style or how I talk about decorating. But the truth is, I'm just some regular old hag who doesn't know what she's doing. And I'm gonna show photos from what my home looked like before I found my interior design style. You're gonna be amazed to see the photos of what my spaces used to look like and all the phases through finding my personal style to show you that anyone can do it. Any old idiot can do it if I can do it. And also to talk about how that transition happened, how I found my style. We're going to talk about some of the main phases that I went through and that I think most people go through when finding their design style. Some of the pivotal discoveries that really helped me narrow down on what I like. If you're watching this channel and you feel like your home is just like not cohesive, or you don't know what to buy, or you feel overwhelmed, or you never feel proud of it, it's something that you really can develop. Maybe some people are just born decorating geniuses, but I was not. And I really like my style today. It's still evolving. I'm not gonna say I'm a design savant, but I like it a lot and it feels very much like me. I wanna show you how I got there. You're gonna get there too. Here we go. This is gonna be fun. I'm excited. All right, the first phase of my design life I would call basically my age of ignorance, the age of giving no f***s. I really didn't think about interior design at all. I was trying to remember if I ever even decorated my dorm rooms in college. I don't think I did. They looked just like a basic whatever dorm room. I don't remember decorating them. I had several like gross apartments in my 20s living in New York. It was hard to even find photos to put in this section because I was never taking photos of my room. It wasn't something I took pride in or even thought about. I definitely didn't have money for decor, but I also just didn't think about decor at all. It was not on my radar. That is until about 2018, 2019. I moved in with my then boyfriend, and we were living in an apartment together. And for the first time, I don't know if it was, I was a little older or I was feeling kind of domestic. For the first time, I started like thinking about my space. I also had nothing to do. I was like living in a new state and I didn't know anyone there other than my boyfriend. And so I was just like in my home all the time and was looking at it. And this stage of the beginning of my interior decorating phase, I would call the copy and paste stage. And I think this is a stage everybody goes through where you just start trying to directly execute something you've already seen. It's very far from like a personal expression because you really like don't know how to express yourself yet. My copy and paste stage was something I would call like rustic, country. In like an apartment in the city in Cincinnati, Ohio. It really didn't make any sense, but I had always loved my extended family who lives in the country in Pennsylvania. They live in 18th century farmhouses with these old wide floorboards. It's very like country aesthetic and it's authentic there. It's real. And I just tried to copy and paste that. It just wasn't authentic to me. It wasn't authentic to like the city apartment I was living in, but it's the only thing that I knew that I liked. Oh, I did an accent wall. Oh, look at this. I put an accent wall up in like this little niche behind our TV. The place is just looking so random to me. It's just like, didn't paint a single wall, never occurred to me. I got this giant bench in the background that I like painted two-tone gray. There's like not a single color in this living room. A gray carpet. It's not horrible, but it's also not anything. I also put such bold colors together. Like this is like this black dresser, and then I spray painted the knobs copper. These grandma curtains, like I don't know who I thought I was. It was the first time I was trying to decorate, but it was also the first time that I was blending a design style with my then boyfriend, and I will say honestly, we couldn't agree on anything. We couldn't agree on color palettes, furniture type, style, money, like really anything. And so it was this really, really not cohesive space where I really didn't want to like, you know, steamroll the situation and just make it all my choices. I was really trying my hardest to accommodate both of our tastes. And it's really hard when you're working with a partner and trying to meld tastes. It is really hard. People ask me to make a video on that a lot. And I will say, I haven't made a video on it because I haven't done it successfully. Like I only did it once with this boyfriend and like it didn't go well. It was really difficult. So if I ever end up moving in with my current boyfriend and it goes better, I will share those tips. But I will say one thing I think about melding design styles with a partner or a roommate or something is this. If both people are going to have very vocal opinions about decor, then both people need to be actively looking at decor and providing options. I don't think it's fair for one person to just be like, no, don't like that, no, don't like that, no, don't like that. And like, it might be legitimate that they don't like that, but if someone is vetoing a lot of stuff, I think that they need to also go and offer options of what they would like. It's kind of the dynamic of being, of like that like joke about your girlfriend when you're like, oh, what do you want to eat? And she's like, oh, anything. And you're like, okay, pizza? No. Oh, okay, Japanese? No. What about Mediterranean? No. Okay, if you're gonna say no to this many things, you need to start offering some options of what you would like, and that will make this collaboration better. That is my opinion about, that's the only opinion I have right now about melding design styles with your partner. This is also the phase where I had my first discovery, and I discovered that I love a little vignette. I love to style a vignette. And I think one of the, literally the first things I experimented with was just styling this black dresser that was in our bedroom. Look at this black and white nonsense. I hate this so much. This looks so crazy to me. This was not that long ago. It was like 2019. So you can see the stuff just like piled up on the dresser. And then eventually I started experimenting with like layering artworks, trying to group things together on a tray. I had this octagonal mirror that I put behind the dresser. It's part, like the bottom part is behind the dresser. I don't know, I was trying stuff. But I actually really liked that little corner. That was probably like the first thing I ever styled and was like, well, that looks kind of cool. So I discovered I love vignettes. I love like styling little contained spaces. Okay, this next phase I would call the DIY stage. And I love the DIY stage, but I would no longer call it my personal decor style. But at the time, I couldn't afford a lot of stuff and I didn't want that to stop me, so I started out making a bunch of stuff. And I do think like the spirit of that is great. The first thing I built was this. I'm so proud. The first thing I built was this work table, just to like do this hideous thing, just to do like sawing off of, saw my own hands off. I did make some cool stuff. I made this like wood art piece. This was for my ex's business he owned. It had like the logo of the business. I was really proud of it and he really loved it too. He still has it up in his business long after we parted ways. I made some other wall art. This was like just like some weird trendy nonsense I made. I started making things custom for my space. I made this like little window box right here. We had this ugly little radiator window and I wanted to make it a little prettier. So instead of removing the rental blinds or buying normal curtains, I made a custom flower box for the window. Why is there a piece of raw wood in my window? It just looks bizarre to me. But I was trying stuff. And at this point you can see like, it is still not occurred to me to like choose a color palette or to even really think about color at all. There's just like a lot of blocks of gray. Oh, I painted the inside of these cabinets dark gray. Why? Look at the rug under my dining table. Look at that. That's a doormat. I did make one thing that I still think was really cool and legit. I saw these like side tables that were really beautiful and I couldn't afford, and so I just made my own. I made this oak side table out of wood and I think it was freaking so beautiful. Good for me. And then right around this time, as I was getting really into DIY, we moved into a different home. And this brings me into the phase that I would describe as the first pendulum swing. And I think this happens to most people after you've tried your copy and paste phase, where you're just doing the only thing you can really think of. Then the pendulum swings the opposite way and you kind of overcompensate. You might start to try something that's like very much on another end of the spectrum. And then I started going very modern, kind of like modern glam. I don't know, but I also didn't get rid of all the country stuff because I couldn't just buy all new things. So this brings us into what I would call an even uglier phase. I think it gets worse before it gets better. But don't freak out if you're in one of these phases. This is how it happens. There is no way around this stuff. I swear to God. How can you learn what really sits well with you if you don't try stuff on first? I had this glass table, would never do that again. But having a glass coffee table is how I learned that I hate having a glass coffee table. It feels so fragile. It feels like it's gonna break. You can't put your feet on it. It shows every single fingerprint, every speck of dust. Not worth it. And then in our living room, it's black and white. It's black and white and like modern glam. I don't know what was happening. I hate tufting. Personally, now, at least, I hate tufting. I look at this room now and I'm like, it's too leggy. It's too leggy. Look at all the legs, very long, spindly legs on all the furniture. Nothing is grounded. Oh, also, I had a puppy at this time. This is Marty. It was really sad going through these photos and seeing him. He's in Ohio. He's in like a lot of these photos because it was just me and him alone all the time. And, he'd literally just stand on the windowsill. He was like such a weird dog. He was such a weird dog, and it was really sad going through these photos. By the way, I don't know if you noticed this already, but I'm looking particularly cozy today. And that is for a couple reasons. Number one, because I'm the king of sweatpants. It is a title given to myself by me, but if you watch my channel, you know it's true. I'm king of sweatpants. And also because I'm wearing Cozy Earth. And thank God they are sponsoring this video. Valentine's Day is around the corner, and if you need a gift for someone you love, let me recommend that you give the world's best sweatpants to a butt that you care about. Let me tell you why these are the best sweatpants. First of all, this is the cut I like. We've got high-waisted cinched waistband. Snatched! We've got waistband at the ankle. It's a very flattering line to leg. This is why this is the only cut of sweatpants you'll see me in. They're lined with fleece. They are so thick and soft. These are the sweatpants of my dreams, and they come of a bunch of really, really cute colors that actually match my living room really well, like autumnal colors. These are actually kind of dirty. I feel like maybe they're not supposed to be dirty when I show them to you, but that's because I've been living in them. Authentic. And if you're looking for a gift for him for Valentine's Day, this is something I got for Justin. This is the men's Cityscape quarter zip. I love a quarter zip. I am also wearing this a lot. I love stealing Justin's pullovers. Come on, daddy. Thank you. Incredibly soft, incredibly high quality. The Cozy Earth men's collection also includes joggers, polos, hats, pajamas, or if you're looking for a gift that you guys can share, the Cozy Earth bamboo sheets you have to try. They are temperature regulating, so I think you sleep like 7 degrees cooler in the sheets. They're really good if you've like one hot sleeper, one cold sleeper. And Cozy Earth bedding products have a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty. That is how much Cozy Earth believes in them. There's some really nice gifts to surprise your loved one, very high quality materials, and just very, very soft so that like you're living your cozy luxury love life in your home. Plus you can get up to 40% off, 40, at cozyearth.com/Caroline and use my code Caroline. And if you really want to support the channel, after checkout, there's a little survey and just let them know you heard about them from me. I appreciate it. Back to the video. And then somewhere around this period is what I call entering the exploration phase. And I think this is another really important phase where you're no longer doing the copy and paste. You're no longer just swinging the pendulum in the other direction. You're just trying lots of stuff. And that is an amazing place to be. And I'll tell you what, it didn't look very good when I did it. It didn't look very good, but it was such an important, healthy place to be because that's the first time that you're actually like noticing how do things make you feel? How do you feel about this unique arrangement that you haven't seen done anywhere else and it's just you? And guess what? It's not going to be that good because copy and paste can almost be easy. It might not feel like you, but it can be easy to execute. But doing something unique and original and experimenting, exploring, it's like putting your first outfit together. It's just like, it's not going to be a home run the first time. But there were some small wins. Like I remember I hung up these 2 like vintage art pieces on the wall in the sunroom and I just loved them there. I loved how there were that like dividing wall panel going through them. I love the symmetry. I love that dark warm wood against the white. I remember just like loving those up there a lot. And I started experimenting with styling more. Like these are my first bookshelves I ever styled. And this was like a very white phase. I was going really hard on like all white, but the styling is not bad. The shelves are kind of empty because I didn't have enough stuff, but like there's height, I'm grouping in 3s, we've got depth variation, texture variation. Like I was starting to learn some things. And it was in this phase that I also started having a lot of discoveries. I discovered that I loved flowers. I don't think I ever had fresh flowers in the previous apartment. Never. And then all of a sudden, like I loved flowers. I discovered I loved vintage dishes. I started collecting some dishware. I did start really like thinking about dishes and I really enjoyed that. And then this was probably the craziest thing I discovered going through my old photos. I didn't even remember I did this. Look at this wall art I made. I made this wall art out of paint swatches that you would get at the paint store. And does that remind you of anything? I had no memory of making these until I went through these photos literally today. But they're honestly so cool. Like I bought these paint books and I just took the swatches out of them. I think they're so cool. And then I made like my first gallery wall. It's not amazing, but it's fine. I'll say my critique right now for the gallery wall. Those highways in between, they're a little bit wide. I would squinch them all together a little bit. And the spacing is a little questionable, a little random. Not the worst though. Not the worst I've seen. Not the worst I've seen. Not the best. I had made maybe 2 or 3 YouTube videos at this point. My first YouTube video of my patio makeover. It's my first video on YouTube. You can still see it. That's this house. I was also watching a lot of Studio McGee at the time on YouTube. And this is just straight up copy and paste of Studio McGee, which was very popular at the time. This ended up being actually, I think, a great makeover. Like I look at this and I'm like, this is baller. That was a great upgrade. It's cohesive. The styling is not overdone. Things are pretty well placed. I love the pops of color. Even like little styling moments, like on my little Lazy Susan I put in the bathroom. Like this was pretty great actually. And this ended up being one of my first bigger YouTube videos. I think it got like 7,000 views and that was huge. When you're getting like 50 views, 52 views, 7,000 is huge. Okay, so things are starting to look a little bit more like something. I've done a lot of experimenting. I mean, you have to understand at this phase in my life, like, I think COVID had started. I think I was working remotely in a new state where I didn't know anybody. The boyfriend situation was difficult. Yeah, I really had nothing to do other than tinker with decor. And so I think that's why it accelerated quickly, just because like it's all I was doing. And I slowly started bringing in a couple more traditional items, more structured stuff. And at this point, I was doing so much thrifting. I basically lived at Goodwill and St. Vincent de Paul. Actually, St. Vincent de Paul was my favorite thrift store in Ohio. I was just there all the time. I was trying to derive all my meaning and all my purpose from there. All my connection from there. I was always there. I actually felt really guilty about it. I was like, why am I always just consuming stuff? Like, why am I always buying stuff? And there were reasons, I was just trying to fill my life up. I will say it was like it actually felt really sad going through these photos because I was so depressed at the time. And then I was looking through these photos and like, I'm always smiling. I'm always smiling and I'm always giggling, or like, I just look at these photos and I'm like, I was trying so hard. I was trying like really, really hard to be happy. in a period that just like wasn't very happy. Yeah, looking through these photos like broke my heart a little bit, just being like, I just really wanted it to be okay. And it was, you know, every photo I flipped through was like getting nearer and nearer to an end. So it didn't end up going that well. My that relationship did dissolve, and I ended up moving home to DC. I moved in with my parents, and I think I'd put out like 8 YouTube videos at that point, and I just completely stopped. I stopped for like maybe 8 months or something, and I was just living in my parents. I wasn't decorating anything. I was just like grieving and like trying to get my life back together and like start over in a new city where I also like didn't know anyone other than my family. But good things were right around the corner. You know, it's one of those periods where you're like, it doesn't seem like you have much to show for it really anywhere, professionally, romantically, decoratively, spiritually, but the seeds are planted. They're just underground. They're just underground, and stuff is starting, but it hasn't sprouted yet. That's what you got to remember about those times. I lived with my parents for about, I don't know, 6 or more months. And then I started looking for an apartment to move into on my own. And this would be the first time that I was living on my own ever, actually. Yeah, I'd always had roommates before, or lived with my ex-boyfriend before. And I ended up finding this beautiful little Victorian townhouse in Washington, D.C., and just fell in love with it. And I moved in. That's the townhouse we're in right now. That's the apartment we're in right now. And then I discovered my love of like craftsman style homes, vintage furniture. I was in the thick of my like vintage everything phase. It was a lot of woods, still love it. A lot of vintage, still love it. But it was almost like too much vintage to me. And what I grew to discover is that this much vintage to me felt a bit more like vintage role play. It felt like I was doing like Victorian role play, and it didn't feel like that authentic to me, I guess. Even though I really liked the individual things. Like, you can look at these spaces, the space now, and be like, oh, it is cohesive. So I was like definitely learning more about decorating in general, but there was something about the style that still needed adjusting for me. It also didn't feel quite cozy enough. Like, things felt a little too proper, a little too precious, you know, like delicate furniture. And I do still really like it. And I think there are places where like full-on vintage does feel authentic, just as there are places where full-on country feels authentic, but it wasn't, not in my home. I would also say I was really big into like pink and really big into florals, and I still love florals, but by going hard on florals, like I had floral everywhere, floral pillows, floral rug. I found this vintage crewel work chair with this like amazing embroidered crewel work on it with these flowers, and I actually like am obsessed with this chair, and I love it, and I think in a certain space it would be phenomenal. Like, I still would buy that today, but it wasn't quite right in my house. I ended up selling that chair, and people were upset when I sold that, but it just wasn't right for me at the time. I honestly hope I find that chair again. But I also at this point started like experimenting with some fun things with like gallery walls, wrapping them around corners, digging into the light dark contrast with like white and dark woods, and playing with height, little pops of color. And like, I was really having fun. This style is very close to where I am today. I made this giant wall art piece, which is hanging above me right here. And then slowly I started mixing in a little more color, a little more saturation, less florals, more moody colors, more layering. The layering just takes time, and I think that's what makes it feel very cozy, very lived into me. And that brings me to where I am today. I would describe my style now as like very cozy, very warm and welcoming, not too fragile, a lot of vintage, but also a good amount of like modern contemporary touches. Like, I don't live in the past, I live today. And that means I need a mix for me. For me, it means that I need a mix of things. The whole apartment also feels really cohesive to me now. There are, you know, I have like one blue room, my kitchen is blue, but it still feels like moody and in touch with the rest of my space. And that's really where I am now. And it took all of those phases to get to this place. And I'm not saying, you know, that I've reached design enlightenment. I think that I have a lot more to learn, but at the very least, my space does feel very personal and very right to me. Like, it definitely feels like my home. It definitely makes me feel the way I want to feel when I come here. It's like so calming. It really feels like my home. I've been here, you know, 3 years now. And this design style will not be my final form, will not be my final resting place. There's a lot of stuff that I really am excited to try and experiment with. I kind of want to paint more. I want to do more saturation. I think I see my like future phase not having a single white wall anywhere. Like, everything will be painted. But I also feel like that doesn't mean dumping the decor items that I own or abandoning the furniture I own. I think I will bring most of these things with me into my future. It all still feels very, very much like me, and I still think there's room to grow. So if you get nothing else from this video, I want you to know that the path to finding your personal style just takes a lot of experimenting. It takes a lot of pendulum swinging. I was talking about this with my podcast partner on my podcast, and I was talking about how kind of like, you know, when you start out, you swing the pendulum one way. Maybe it's the only thing you know, rustic country. And you say, whoop, no, it's not that. And you swing it extremely the other way. Modern glam. No, it wasn't that. And then you swing it back a little and a little more. But each time the swing is a little more slight. It's a little less extreme until you end up kind of centering on yourself. And I think it's that adjusting and like hitting the walls, hitting the extremes, finding, you know, I do like part of country and I do like part of rustic. I do like parts of modern and I do like parts of vintage. I do like parts of florals, but it's just like, what percent of each do I like? And I think it takes that swinging of the pendulum and that exploration. Give yourself the permission to experiment. I hope you got a little inspiration, a little motivation, and that you feel a little less bad about where you are on your design journey, because we're all somewhere. I haven't completed my design journey. I don't know if anyone really has. I think if you love design, you keep exploring, you keep evolving as a person, and hopefully it's fun along the way. I'll see you soon. The Studio McGee style, and I did a makeover bathroom, and I did a bathroom for my I did a bathroom for my, I did a rent, what did I do? I did a makeover for my rental bathroom. Okay. And this is just straight up